is up, everybody? This is O-Artistry here, and welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. Now, today is going to be a very interesting episode on Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links because there's two things that we're going to talk about. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the upcoming updates. And there's a very specific reason why, and we're going to go into that. And the other half is actually going to be TCG related, which is Banlist Predictions. And I'll show you what my Banlist Predictions is going to look like. But for now, what I thought would be cool is going through the upcoming updates for Duel Links. And while we kind of go through it and discuss things, I thought it'd be cool then to also get some duels under the way. So, you know, at least it's not just me talking. You can see some stuff happening in the background. So before we get into that, let's talk about the beginning part, which talks about the incorrect details that was announced and have made the necessary corrections. And I think basically they just said that mid to early June or mid to late June was what they put on the original posts, and then they were like, oh no, everything's gonna happen in July, so which is like fair enough. So first of all, we have the Turbo Grand Prix, which interestingly enough we have Earthbound Immortal Casilu coming. I think that's the whale, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the whale, which is Greiger's card. Another Earthbound Immortal, because we had the Spider Uru randomly drop in the game, but not the person who uses it. So I'm a bit concerned about that, because it's like, well, I'd like all these characters to be in Duel Links. Can they be in Duel Links? And then the next thing in mid-July is Duelist Road. So it's going to be a story based on Zexal. So we're having more Zexal stuff. So Envoys of the Barren World have a Phenomenon trump card and are going after Astral and the Numbers. So we're going to have like a pretty interesting event going on there. Whether that's actually like a PvP event or not, I don't know. Duelist Roads normally aren't. They're normally story based, but the Turbo Grand Prix, that normally is PvP, but I could again be wrong on that occasion. But this is the one that I wanted to talk about the most. Obtain a legendary duelist, and it's going to be obtain a certain character, so collect the exclusive items and challenge the character. Stay tuned for further updates, because at this moment in time, obviously we don't know who this character is. And all it says for the hint is, Yugi, the battle for the Pharaoh's power will begin right now. Interesting, this quote. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of take a little snip and sketch of it. Discussion. So, who do I think this character is going to be? Now, obviously, this is something that is quite interesting because we haven't had a Duel Monsters character or a Dark Side of Dimensions character in quite a while. The last character for Duel Monsters was Solomon Moto. He was the last character that we got in the game. Or was it Duke? No, it had to be Yugi's grandpa. Yeah, Yugi's grandpa was the last character we had. And to be honest, at first I was super hyped for Solomon coming, and, you know, finally getting some sort of Exodia strategy, but with Solomon, and I thought that was going to be really sick. But weirdly enough, he didn't even have a skill for Exodia, which, you know, Grandpa's cards is his skill, but he doesn't even have it himself, which made him go from one of the best characters or the most hyped characters to like the most disappointing of characters, which is like a huge shame, to be honest. And in terms of Dark Side of Dimensions, I was really torn who I thought was the last character, and I think, if I remember this right, it was actually Bakura. I'm pretty sure that's correct. So, who do I think the next character is going to be? Well, that's actually quite an interesting one. See, we know it's manga-based. That's very important to note. This is manga-based, so it cannot be an anime character. Which means, for all you darts fans out there, before you get in the comment section, it's not darts. If darts randomly appears out of nowhere, I'm gonna be very confused as to how, because it makes absolutely no sense, but there we go. So I don't think it's obviously going to be darts. It has to be, and obviously it could be Duel Monsters, or it could be Dark Side of Dimensions. Now, there are a few characters that I did think possibly it could be, and a potential rough idea. For example, Strings could well be a character that we might actually get in the game, because obviously you get Strings once when you duel him for Slifer the Sky Dragon, and that's literally it. So I thought, well, maybe it could be him, but I don't know. We haven't had Strings for like years, so I would have thought if they were going to include him, they probably would have by now, so I doubt it's going to be him. Like, it's not him. So yeah, it's not going to be a manga character, and I don't think it's going to be Strings. So I kind of came up with 3 very potential ideas, and I want you guys to kind of think, oh, well, maybe yay or nay kind of on this idea. So the 3 characters that I personally thought of, and this is going to be in like kind of like no particular order, who I think is the most likely and who I think is the least likely. So in this order, I think it's going to be Shoddy, Marek, as in good Marek, or it's going to be the Unknown Duelist, aka Sarah from Dark Side of Dimensions. I kind of was hoping to get maybe 2 characters from each series, so Shoddy and Marek, good Marek, being the ones for the one, you know, for regular Duel Monsters, and then 2 characters for Dark Side of Dimensions. And the only other character I can think of for Dark Side of Dimensions would be a weird Zork Bakura Agami fusion that they do right at the end, where he's that weird like monster looking thing. But again, it would just be cubic monsters, and you know, at that point they didn't think the Pharaoh was going to return, so I was a bit hesitant in including him. So my 3 choices are those. So why do I think it's going to be possibly Shoddy? Well, first of all, he's one of the only people who knows that Yugi has the power of the puzzle. You know, because it's, again, the quote is, the battle for the Pharaoh's power will begin right now. So I'm thinking, maybe, I mean, imagine it's Zork from out of nowhere. I don't even know how that would work. So, yeah, and I don't think it's going to be a Yu-Gi-Oh! R character either while we're on this topic. Basically, for those of you who don't know, Yu-Gi-Oh! R was a manga exclusive that basically this dude who was like adopted as Pegasus's son as a successor, because Pegasus couldn't have children, or because Cecilia died, he didn't have children, so he passed this you know, his legacy on to this guy who had the Wicked cards. I don't think it's going to be him, and the reason why is it'd be a bit out of really left field. Out of nowhere, just this dude randomly drops. It'd be like, huh? It'd be cool, but you know, I just don't see him quite fitting in Duel Links. But you never know, you never know. So yeah, Shoddy is the first person that came to mind. Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 0 was an event that happened, and it would tie into the original series. Shoddy battled him for the Pharaoh's power, or the power of the puzzle, where basically Yugi kind of, initially the idea was that Yugi would let this museum expert borrow the puzzle for an exhibition, but in reality he was actually really shady and he wanted to sell the Millennium Puzzle, you know, for a high profit. But Shoddy got involved and managed to take the puzzle, and Yugi was very confused because he's like, excuse me, that's my puzzle, why do you have it? So they kind of had a few fights, to, you know, Shadi testing Yugi, which was really weird because, like, Shadi made people kind of turn into zombies and all sorts. Like, even Tristan became one. Taya was, like, tied to a whole bunch of, like statues, which was based off Yugi's emotions. And if for whatever reason Yugi failed, Taya would have plummeted. And like, yeah, that was like insane. But then beyond that, then that's when Shadi was kind of more on Yugi's team, and was explaining the power of the puzzle. Remember, this is manga exclusive, so this isn't like Shadi appearing after Pegasus's defeat and, you know, doing the whole test of the spirit. This actually happens in the manga earlier than that. So he was the only kind of character I would think of. But if I'm being completely honest, what deck would Shadi use? Like, what would he actually play? And that's something I'm really torn about, because Shadi doesn't really have a deck. He doesn't actually duel in the series, considering he has both the key and the scales. He doesn't actually play any games per se. Like, he doesn't have a single duel. You know, games like Duelist of the Roses and all sorts puts him in, and it gives him like different things, but like, it's so random. So that's why, like, while I think Shadi would be a cool addition to the game, I just don't know what he would necessarily play. Now, obviously, the first character that we had with the alternative kind of appearances was Soulburner, and we haven't had one since Soulburner, since he managed to get his flame AI. So I was thinking, well, maybe this is an opportunity that they're going to throw in Marek, because Marek, as in the regular version of Marek, might actually be a possible character that could be thrown in. It makes sense. The battle for the Pharaoh's power begins now is something I can imagine him saying, but he would just have kind of event exclusive cards, but we have most, if not all, of his cards. So I don't know. Like, it'd be very interesting to see who that would be, you know, what we would get with that. Maybe a new skill to summon Ra or something like that. But it'd be cool to go between you know, regular Marek and evil Marek. And I say evil in quotations because even regular Marek was a quite nasty man. Let's be honest. And then that only leaves one other potential character, and that's a character that I've really hoped for a long time. Similar to kind of Marek, my way of thinking is that Sarah would be able to turn into the unknown duelist. So instead of the unknown duelist being a single character, I think they would just have the ability to swap between the two. Mystery Duelist had obviously like a loss animation and a scream that was like, oh my word, did we just murder this character? Already we have a few of her cards, but it'd be cool to get like some more of the cubic stuff through her, or maybe some of, I think, what is it, like, not Star Seraph? Yeah, I think it's Star Seraph that she randomly uses. But the weird thing about that one is that essentially Kaiba duels the unknown duelist in a manga exclusive literally before the movie, and it's supposed to be based off Duel Links. So there's an interesting tie there, but it was Kaiba who did that duel. So why would the unknown duelist say, Yugi, the battle for the Pharaoh's power will begin now? That's the only issue I have with that. So if I'm being completely honest, the one I'm leaning the most towards is Marek, and a different variation of Marek. I mean, I can't imagine it being realistically anybody else, because remember, manga exclusive, like, Dots didn't care about, and that's the other thing, if people are thinking, oh, maybe Dots didn't care about the Pharaoh, like, in that sense. Like, he just wanted enough souls to power the Leviathan so that he could take over the world, and eventually it was like, what was apparently going to flood the West Coast, but in the dub, but in reality it was so huge it would flood the whole Earth. But yeah, I can't imagine. Obviously, with Darts as well, is he doesn't talk to Yugi. Surprisingly, he doesn't really speak to Yugi, because obviously at that point he lost his soul, losing to Raphael. I don't think it'd be Raphael either, because he's not going to be, again, battling for the Pharaoh's power. Nor is he going to really, like, you know, he was like, "You're evil, Pharaoh," you know, kind of thing, and going off on that spiel. So I really don't think it's going to be Raphael or anything like that. I don't think it's going to be an anime exclusive character, because how would that work in a manga exclusive world? I don't think it could be someone who's anime. You've got possessed Bandit Keith. Maybe at an absolute push, possessed Joey, strings. Those are kind of like things I'm thinking of, but like, again, interestingly enough, possessed Bandit Keith was an anime exclusive, because when the whole thing with the burning fire and all that type of stuff, remember, Bandit Keith actually dies when he loses after he loses to Joey, because of a shadow game that Pegasus inflicts on him. So it can't be you know, Bandit Keith. And then all that leaves us with would be then Strings or Possessed Joey. So Possessed Joey would be an interesting idea. But why would we have that out of nowhere? Like, this is the thing, like, we haven't had a Duel Monsters character in so long. They've really focused on a whole load of other worlds, so it'd be super weird to just throw someone in now from Duel Monsters. I'm leaning slightly more towards Duel Monsters and Dark-Sided Dimensions, because I just don't think there's a character apart from the Bakori Zork. But again, like a Nagami fusion. But again, they just assumed that the duel was going to happen, and he was just going to take over the planet with Yugi and Kaiba tag dueled, or, you know, 2-on-1 him. But even then, it was only Yugi almost losing the duel that a time was summoned. So I don't think it'd be Battle for the Pharaoh would tie to him. So I'm leaning more towards a Duel Monsters world, the Dark-Sided Dimensions. Drink some tea. I'm really torn who I think the character's gonna be. Like, imagine if it was just Jaden or something out of nowhere. Like, I don't know. It can't be, obviously, but or let's just go completely left field and they just go, "Hey, it's Alexander the Great from Capsule Monsters." Imagine, that would be absolutely bonkers. Or like Rashid from Destruction, a possessed Pegasus. That'd be funny. Just throw in a random video game character. Or flippin' heck, the from Duels to the Roses, the bad guy. It's a Welsh name. Like Phoebe Ear or whatever his name is, and I royally butchered that, and I know I did, but it's something ridiculously huge. But yeah, that'd be hilarious. I don't think it's going to be a video game character, obviously. I think it's got to be manga exclusive, so I'm thinking it's either going to be Shadi, which I just can't really necessarily imagine, or it's going to be Marek. And Marek is kind of the one I'm most convinced it's going to be. It makes the most sense. Or another character that could be swapped out. I don't think it's going to be. This is the thing. I really don't think it's going to be a new character. I'd be shocked if it's a new character, like just out of nowhere that they drop. I think it's either going to be someone like Strings, who we've already seen, or it's going to be like maybe the Unknown Duelist or something like that, or it possibly could be like a character that can swap into two different things. Because yeah, they randomly dropped the Soulburner one, and then we haven't had anything since. So maybe this will be the second character to actually do it, and that'd be pretty cool and pretty interesting. So yeah, what are your kind of predictions? What's your thoughts? I mean, we're already in the beginning of July, so obviously we know this is late July, so this could happen anywhere between, and let's kind of focus on this. I think it could happen anywhere between the 21st to the 31st. Obviously it's going to be those last 10 days. So let's see. According to the Duel log, obviously we know this event ends in apparently 2 days time. We're playing with yugioh. Is it yugioh? Am I really? Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, I'm tripping. So many U characters. But yeah, obviously we've got yugioh for till the 7th of July. And then once we've done that, I can't imagine the Turbo Grand Prix happens until the 14th. So then obviously after the Turbo, which is the 14th, it means that the 15th or it actually starts on the 14th will be the Duelist Road. So Duelist Road, let's have a quick little look. 14th, so that could end up taking us maybe a little bit over a week, something like that, probably until because we got Duelist Road. So I reckon Duelist Road could last us at least till that's a very good question. Let's see here, is there any? Yeah, because it's until the 14th, so that's only 7 days, so that's like a week. So let's say it takes us another week with the flipping heck Duelist Road, so that would be till the 21st. Last late July, which is really annoying because I'm at the Royal Welsh on that Monday. So let's say maybe sometime around about that week. So obviously for me it's going to be a bit awkward because I'm going to be like, oh no, I'm away, and I really want to cover it, but we'll have to wait and see when this character comes. But obviously we will wait and see when it comes. So I'd love to know what your predictions are for who this character could be and what it could possibly look like, because if I'm being completely honest, I can't really see who it is going to be. Like, I've made all these predictions and I've made all these ideas, but if I'm being completely honest, I even the options I've given, I'm not 100% convinced. Like, normally there's like a hint or something like that, and you can go, ah yes, it's going to be this character, and that would make sense. But yeah, just a short little simple Yugi, the battle for the Pharaoh's power will begin right now. I really haven't got a clue. A Tem comes to Duel Links. That'd be to Dark-Sided Dimensions is what I mean. So like, we've already got Yami Yugi, but would a Tem come to Dark-Sided Dimensions? Why would he say the battle for his own power will begin right now? The battle for the Pharaoh's power. Why would that be an option? I can't see that happening. Send deserty 5,000-year-old Bakura? Why not? And call him Zork? I guess, maybe, who knows? It could be Zork, but why would he say Yugi for the power power for the Pharaoh? The battle for the Pharaoh's power will begin right now. Like, that's what I mean. Like, I can't imagine certain characters saying these things. Like, it doesn't make sense. But anyways, I'm gonna like pause this kind of like here, because this is obviously the first part of the predictions. And now we're going to talk about the other half of this video. Oh, this is kind of my predictions for the ban list coming soon. We've had a whole load of people starting their predictions when we think the ban list is going to drop and what I think is going to get hit. There's a few specific reasons why I've gone for a lot of these cards, and hopefully it will all make sense. I think this is a fairly accurate list, and we're going to go through each card and why I think it's going to get banned. So to start off with, we got Fabled Lori. Now Lori has obviously a massive part of the Fiendsmith strategy. It did have a reprint and an alternative artwork and everything, but with the new set coming with, you know, Canine and everything like that, you know, I 100% think that it's had its time in the sun. So obviously the next set, I'm just going to double check the name here, just so I'm not like talking out of my backside. So it's obviously going to be Justice Hunters. So Justice Hunters comes at the end of July, so literally it's coming the 31st of July. So I definitely think we're going to have a ban list prior to that, so that when we get the new, like, obviously we're going to have, like, that set is going to change the format. 100% it's going to change the format. There's no doubt in my mind, seeing how well it's performing. I cannot wait for the I can't think what the archetype is called now, but obviously it's the one with the little cats, and they're all like delicious treats. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, all it says is yummy for them, which is really annoying. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that archetype because I think it's going to be really sick. Yes, I think obviously with that ban list coming, it's going to affect how the card game is currently being played, and cards like Lori, for example, and Fiendsmith Disarray, they've had their time in the sun. I'm sorry, they need to go. Like, they are an absolute pain in the backside, and they just need to get out of the game. Fiendsmith is like being splashed everywhere, and I think it, you know, like, it's not even pure Fiendsmith. It is something and Fiendsmith, you know, which is just an absolute nightmare. So I think Fiendsmith's had its time in the sun, which is why I think Lori, Disarray and Requiem are just going to go. I think with the new cards coming, people aren't really going to be interested in playing. Obviously Engraver had a reprint, which is why I think Engraver himself is going to be limited, but I think they're going to kill Fiendsmith, and I really hope they do, because in the last ban list it was the only thing that they didn't hit. They hit everything else but Fiendsmith, which made Fiendsmith better, which was really frustrating, if I'm being honest. I love the ban list, and I thought it was perfect. I would give it a 9 out of 10. The only issue was that it needed to hit Fiendsmith. So, Bestial Magamut. So, why do I think this card's going to get banned? It's already limited, but again, Blue Eyes support, you know, also it's decent for like Primite and things like that. I 100% I think this card is still slightly too powerful, and I think it just needs to bump up into the next list over. And finally we have Ryzeal Cross. Again, Ryzeal is really strong still. Would this kill Ryzeal? I don't know. I've never really played Ryzeal, but the field spell, the fact that it can just negate something like Nibiru, for example, I think it's a little bit too strong. So I think it'll either be limited or banned, but I've seen most decks only playing one Ryzeal Cross. I don't see them playing many of them, but in my opinion, I think it's still just a bit too strong. Dimensional Barrier. Now this is going to be a very interesting one, because obviously with the new support coming, dragons are, I think they're fusion based, and the yummy monsters are synchro based. So, and I'm not sure what Canine is. I don't know. They could be Link related, maybe. I'm not 100% sure. But I think Dimensional Barrier, I love the card, but obviously it's unlimited right now. So I think hitting it, making it a little bit limited, I don't think it needs to be banned, but putting it on the limited list I think makes sense to me. Again, Graver had its time in the sun, time for Fiendsmith to go. Now, yes, let's put in all the memes, insert all the memes, but genuinely, we did, if you haven't seen on my channel, we did a traditional format series, and some cards absolutely are never coming off the list. Confiscation, Forceful Century, Painful Choice, they are never coming off. RJ 100% proved why those cards deserve to still be banned. But interestingly enough, Pot of Greed can be hit with cards like Ash Blossom, and there are so many negates these days. I actually think Pot of Greed could come to limited. You could errata Pot of Greed and make it just a once per duel, so if it gets negated, then it's gone and you're not going to get your +2 draw. Interestingly enough, with Yugioh, I think Yugioh should have its errata so it comes back to being tuna non-tuna. That would be fantastic, but there we go, that's just me. But yeah, Pot of Greed, I think, actually really could come off the list. There are so many negates these days. Drawing cards, it's 100%. I think it could be limited. I don't think it unlimited. I don't think we'll ever see triple Pot of Greed ever again. But limited, I think, is perfectly acceptable. Heavy Storm, for a very similar reason. I don't think you could ever see Lightning Storm at 3. Heavy Storm. But definitely destroy all spells and traps in the field. There's a lot of cards that benefit being when they're destroyed, that you get additional effects, so maybe that's an argument, but I think it's better than Giant Trunade bouncing everything back to the hand so you can reactivate it. I think it's just way too strong, so I think Heavy is the better choice out of the two, but let me know which you would prefer, Heavy Storm or Giant Trunade, one or the other. Red Reboot has been banned for quite a while, and I honestly think that this card could actually be limited. So when your opponent activates a trap card, which isn't that often, you can negate the activation, and if you do, set the card back face down. Then if they can set another trap card directly from the deck, Labyrinth would really benefit from it, but for the rest of the turn your opponent cannot activate trap cards. And then you can activate this card from your hand by paying half your life points. Quite a steep cost, but I definitely think Red Reboot, it's a powerful trap card, and I can see why it's on the forbidden list, but I think if we're being realistic, this could actually be limited. Now, Zodiac Trident, this is actually really interesting because I'd love to see how Ryzeal and Zodiac would work together. Obviously, as we know, the Zodiac Barrage got moved to limited, which allows you to special summon Zodiacs, but not many Zodiac cards are quite available. So I think I think they're gonna slowly unlock Zodiac, and just to see how it's going to go, whether it's too powerful and if it needs to be rebanned. So I definitely think that Zodiac Trident could come back. I mean, look at Thunder Dragon, for example. I mean, I love how they look and everything, and they were based in 2019, and they can still probably go, but they're not exactly meta-defining now compared to what they were back then, and I think Zodiac could be the same. Obviously, there is more support and all sorts, so who knows, maybe Zodiac could still be extremely powerful. Now, Glow Bulb is again something from the last tournament that we went to and the traditional format. Glow Bulb, I mean, I almost got in trouble with this because at the last event that I was going to go to at Firestorm, which was for the Alliance Insight preview, hilariously, Glow Bulb was in my side deck, and I had no idea it was banned. The reason why it was banned was Needle Fibrex, very powerful tuner, makes sense, but I think Glow Bulb could come back. A great 1-for-1 target. Obviously, if it's sent to the graveyard, then you can send another card, special summon it, but you can only use it once per duel. And that once per duel ability, I think, is what makes it just being able to be limited and just stay on the limited list unless something more drastic happens. But 100%, I think Glow Bulb is good enough to come back. I think it's definitely something I'd love to see again. And I loved playing it in my deck. I thought in the Mystery to Mastery it was a really fun little tech card to use. Dandelion, again, is something that I find really interesting because if sent to the graveyard, special summoned, fluff tokens, they can't be used for the tribute summon the turn that they used, but obviously you're going to probably link them off, or you could, I think, even maybe exceed them, but they are level 1 tokens, so you're more likely going to link them off for more field presence. But I think Dandelion would be an interesting card to come back and see how that goes. Now, Mindmaster has been banned for a very long time. However, in the latest set that has come out, which was very recently, Duelist's Advance, that has a whole load of psychic support. And I think Mindmaster would be really popping off well, especially with E-Tally, you know, coming in. And that'd be interesting to see if the ban list of Emergency Teleport gets hit because of the new psychic support. But basically, you can pay 800 life points, tribute a psychic type monster except for itself, and then you can special summon a level 4 or lower psychic monster from your deck in attack mode. I think this would be really fun to bring back into psychic decks, and I think it'd be pretty awesome. So I'd love to see this card and seeing all the options that you could do with it. Nightmare Mermaid. Now, this card, obviously, I think should come back because Griffin is gone. So, to replace Griffin, I think we could bring back one Mermaid. Sage with Eyes of Blue. Now, this was a card that I was very much debating because it's the only Blue Eyes card I think that can be hit, potentially. It does affect, obviously, the structure deck a little bit. But it's the best, in my opinion. This would be the best card of choice to ban if you or limit it. You know, it's something that it should get hit. The reason why is this is what's used to when it's normal summoned, you could add Effect Veiler, and then on top of that you're then linking off into the Link 1 monster, which then gets you, but you know, so by hitting Sage it just slows Blue Eyes a little bit, which I think would be absolutely fine. And finally, Ronin Toadin, I think should come back to 1. I think the reason why this was banned, obviously, you know, Bahamut Shark was obviously hit in the last list, so it makes it harder to hit Toad. Totally awesome. So I think by getting Ronin Toadin onto the board, that is a replacement for Bahamut Shark, effectively. And I think that'd be fantastic. My brother would be very much happy if Ronin Toadin ever came off the list. And he could use it. Even at 1, I think he'd be very much happy. Now, Rhoda, I've put here again on the semi-limiteds. Now, Bonfire was obviously hit before, so, and they finally hit Bonfire because for ages, you just had access to Bonfire at triple copies. So Reinforcement probably won't move to the semi-limits, but it'd be really interesting to see if they did, because adding level 4 little warriors from deck to hand would be really strong, and I think it'd be really cool, especially with the Sky Strike alternative artwork. I think that'd be pretty fire when that eventually comes to us in the TCG. It'd be cool to have 2 copies of that. Brilliant Fusion obviously moved from the ban list to the limited list, and I think it can move from the limited to the semi. The reason why is because there is new Gem Knight support, but also on top of all of that, it hasn't really done a whole lot. Again, this was quite a menace back in the day, and I did love this spell card. It was fantastic. But at the same time, you know, I think it could come back. It's kind of similar to Zodiac Dryden. It's one of those cards that back in its day was extremely powerful, and it was understandable why it's banned, but it hasn't really made much of a difference being limited since it's come back from the last list. I haven't seen it do anything, so I think Brilliant Fusion could come back. Zodiac Barrage should have moved to the semi in the last list, so I think hopefully we'll see what that happens, and it should move to the semi this time around. Gateway of the Six, I just want Six Samurai to, because it does have fairly new support, so I think Gateway would be a fantastic card to also move to the semis, just to get that little bit extra, you know, support, and to make Six Samurais potentially great again. You never know. I mean, don't get me wrong, Six Samurais are always fantastic, but even with all the support that they've released over the years, it's not necessarily, it's not like its glory days where it was winning a lot of events. It's kind of, you know, fallen to the wayside a little bit. So bringing back Gateway, I think, would be a real help to bring Six Samurais back to the limelight. Brawl Ball, I definitely think would be one that would be interesting to see. And I did put it on the semis. I was torn between limited and semi. I think definitely this is the right way to do it. So Brawl Ball in the semis and Trident in the limited, just to see how all that goes. Substitute, again, this is just another way of getting to Totally Awesome. To replace Bahamut Shark, since Bahamut Shark is on the forbidden list. So I think bringing Substitute to 2 allows you to then special summon a frog monster from deck, and those monsters can't be destroyed by battle. You're pretty much running one Substitute anyways, mostly, but I think it'd be really cool to bring that to the semis. And again, with Frame Lord Omega, absolute same reason for Mind Master. With the new psychic support that's come out, I definitely think Frame Lord could come back, and you know, I think that'd be absolutely fine. I don't think there'd be any issues with that moving to the semi, just to give psychics a little bit extra support. And it's also a tuner non-tuner, so I think that'd be pretty sick to see how that goes. Lightning Storm Unlimited, you know, it's semi. I think it should be unlimited, just to bring it full circle. Rat Pier is the one I definitely think is the best kind of card to display for Zodiacs to come back, and 100% I think that'd be fantastic. It's one of the best level 4s. It's obviously why it's banned, but I think this could come to unlimited. Runic Allure is in the semi, as well as Purely Delicious Memory and Sleepy Memory, so I think these could move off the semi list. They've been on there for a while. They could have moved from the last list, but they didn't. A load of monsters did, so I think these could come off the unlimited. And then obviously that's the same with Black Dragon Coral Serpent and White Dragon Wife Buster. They were the cards to move from the limited to the semis, so I think it'd be cool to see them move from the semis to the unlimited. And finally, Unchanged Soul of Shava, exact same reason. It moved from one column to the next, so I think its natural progression is to bring it to unlimited, and just to see how Unchained does with Shava being back at 3. Really curious on your thoughts. Also on the character, who you think is going to be coming to Duel Links. I'd love to know your thoughts on that. Also, happy 4th of July. I wanted to say that before, you know, before I forget. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this video up, so please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more content like this one. And as always, party on, peeps. Take care, guys. It was great to see you, and we'll see you again on the next episode. Bye!